You're listening to the
Freio Music Podcast.
To the Freio Music
Podcast.
As a guest, as an artist, I'm Turu Anasi, and I'm from Ukraine, from Dnipro.
You were born in Ukraine, and my understanding is you previously have been making music for a while now. So I want to kind of go back to your early youth and kind of understand how you got introduced to music. What was the catalyst, or what started you down the path of music?
Well, the catalyst was, in overall, it was a Prodigy album, The Fate of the Land. It was 1997, if I remember it's correct, the release date. And my classmate showed me this band and this album. Previously, I was into like pop USSR artists or something like that. I didn't have my own personal music taste. I was listening to music that my parents were listening. They had a vinyl,
Yep.
so they was quite deep into the music. So they were melomans, and they had a big record collection, but obviously it was mostly USSR pop artists, and this kind of music was with me like from 6 years old to 13, 12, something like this. And in 1997, I don't remember the year exactly, but somewhere around 1996, 1997, or 1998, I was introduced to the music by the Prodigy band, to the electronic music, and it was the beginning of my way into the music and into the production. And I remember those feelings. It was like the first goosebumps from the music I had felt. So it's because of the Prodigy, yeah.
Given that the music, you like felt it in a new way. Like, how did you go from just being an enjoyer of the music to realizing that, man, maybe I could create something like this?
Well, the roots of this, I'm thinking it's maybe because of the Prodigy again, because I was really in love into the guys, into the artists, like artists' images on the posters, on the albums. So they were freaks. So in 1990s, it was a big influence. It was something new. So I start to discovering how the music made, what the difference between this kind of music and pop USSR, Ukrainian music, because in local music, you understand arrangement a lot. So you see bass guitar, acoustic guitar, piano, strings, or whatever, and you realize that the guy's playing instruments and the music coming. And in electronic music, it was different. I didn't realize how it was made. So it was interesting. And uh, by the way, I just remember the same time it was the period I had my first computer, personal computer. And I remember there was like first tries to install the digital audio workstation. It was Fruity Loops. I
Yep.
think every producer passed through this digital audio workstation. And uh, it I think that time it was the beginning, but I don't have any materials. There was no internet, at least in Ukraine. I don't have any books about music production and about programming, music programming. So I tried everything by myself, but it was too hard for me. I didn't realize how to play four on the floor kick or something like this. So something really easy I was unable to create. So I dropped it. I was moved to DJing. So
Okay.
I started DJing in 14 or 15 years in the school parties. I think a lot of guys from my age, from my era, were starts in school parties. I was DJing in school parties. Mm,
And was
I
this high
share,
school? What? How old were you at that
yeah,
time?
yeah. 14, 15, it
Okay.
was high school. Yeah. And so I was share my love to the Prodigy with everybody, but it was not obviously successful because everybody else was listening to pop stars. So me and my friends was enjoying this a lot. So mostly we did this parties. It was our beginnings about these parties, and mostly we did these parties for ourselves. But I think maybe in 3 years we had a lot more friends with the same musical tastes than in the beginning. And so I was dreaming to be a DJ. And later in 2000 and 2005 and 4, it's the DJ Superstars was born. And of course, as a young teenager, I was dreaming in 17 or 18, I was dreaming to be something like the superstar DJ. Uh, and
Any particular
mostly,
DJs that really like stuck out in your mind at that age?
um, obviously, the guys was known to everybody. It was David Guetta, Joachim Garraud, so it was era like the first ones. I didn't ever listen to Pete Tong or Richie Houghton, or I think Richie Houghton was later to Pete Tong and Armin van Buren and trance and hard music style guys. But Joachim Garraud and Swedish House Mafia, they Angelo, they was quite modern those days, and those kind of music was to me quite good. Of course, the musical taste was evolving every 2 years, every 2 3 years. I um, moved from a lot of music styles, from one to each other, from drum and bass, jungle, house music, tribal house, progressive house, two step, take step, jazz music, chill out music, ambient music, so disco, soulful house, everything. Only in the adult age, about 27 or 28, I realized fully that be, I should move into a music production, and I quit all my hobbies. I quit DJing, I quit a job and jump uh, 24 hours into music production. So the production by itself in full speed starts at 28.
I mean, I've definitely explored a lot of genres as well, and at least for personally, and tell me if this is the same for you, but like I'll just discover a new song in a new land of music, and then I will follow that and kind of explore other tracks by that artist and then other related artists. Is that how your exploration went?
Well, obviously it was like this also, but yeah, I think mostly it was like this. Some of the new people that I met in my life, that my new friends, new, I don't know, classmates, university mates, or workmates, uh, share with me some new music or some music in their loved styles they were listening. And sometimes it was by me discovering different audio libraries, different CDs, different forums, or something like this. Because if you are into some music genre deep for a couple years, you start to realize that every track, especially in electronic music, that every track are very familiar to previous and to another. So the same chord progressions, the same hooks, the same bridges, the same sounds, the same mixing, the same mastering. So obviously, if you are listening to one genre, it starts to be boring to listen because you will know what will be in the track in a minute or so. That's why, by the way, I moved into the ethnic and multicultural music because of the fullness, richness of the instruments, of the scales, different folk scales, and I think we will back to this question later.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. And I think you said it eloquently. Why if you're just in a niche, you're not gonna you understand what's coming up. You know the next hook, you know the next drop, you can anticipate it, and it's kind of loses the excitement or the novelty, something new that pops up and a surprise. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your jump at I think you said it was age 28. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
So first of all, I think I like to call that like the point of no return. Like where you're jumping off the cliff, like you're not gonna you better have a parachute, right? You're not going back up. So I feel like a lot of people, it takes that point of no return in order for you to commit fully. And were your family supportive? Were people calling you crazy, for quitting your job? How did that go?
Well, definitely it was hard times for me. I was leaving the parents' house and I was moved to my future wife apartment. She was living by herself, by her own, and maybe she the only person that supports me those time. Uh, because I had a difficult relationship between me and my parents because they was disappointed with my choice. Well, yeah, obviously it was a hard times, and I remember one room apartment, and my wife was working all day, and I also was get up early, like 9, 8 o'clock and start to make music, to learn to make music until the 10 or 11 in the evening. It was like this. It was obviously hard times.
Yeah. So when you started, when you committed, and maybe it was before then, but what instruments were the first instruments that you picked up? You know, when you say you're learning to make music, is this all on the computer? Is this digital, MIDI, or is this a physical instrument?
Uh, well, in 28, my first setup was pretty newcomer setup. It was just a PC, sound card, headphones, and some audio monitors. So it was the most budget monitors I can afford those time. So it was like pretty standard bedroom producer setup, but budget setup. With the time, I realized that only programming the music with the mouse or keyboard, I mean the laptop keyboard, is not for me. So I bought the MIDI keyboard, and then I realized that the keyboard playing is should have skills, and I bought the books and I found a teacher. So and it goes like this. Yeah, and the instrument, the first instrument, like it was the synthesizer. The first instrument it was cork, micro cork. It was quite good synthesizer, and mm, even in these days, it's quite popular. It sounds really good. It's cutting through the mix. It's working. It's behaved good on stage with the sound. So the first one it was cork, micro cork. Yeah, yeah, cork micro cork.
Great. And what instruments do you play now? Is it still keyboard primarily?
Yeah. Piano. I had lessons and guitar a little bit.
So I wanted to talk a little bit, you know, about some of the music that you've produced earlier, and then we'll kind of move to the present day. So when you started producing, were you producing under your first name?
Yeah. It was Sasha Anastasov. Yeah.
What prompted you to make the move to Turu? And then I guess just kind of a follow up question is like, did you feel stuck in the old music that you were making and you wanted to branch out?
The success I got in the DJing was with the new disco music. So I was tried, as we said before, a lot of the genres, and I played all these genres. I had a vinyl with all these genres. I was reading, discovering the artists and how this music was created and everything. But always people around me had a bit more success. So the DJs around me, even in my hometown, the culture is not so popular in here in DJing, but even people around me was quite more success. And the first genre that I was able to get popular, it was new disco. Maybe it was the time because I was really long into music. It's like a rule of 10 years, if you know what I mean. Uh, so I was 10 years into music. I start to realize that my work is start to bringing me the benefits. And it was the period when I was fully in love with the new disco music. And I was one of the first in, even I could say, in Ukraine who started to play this music. So even not only in Ukraine, I met Tim Bernhardt, Satin Jackets, in 2008. I met him just by wrote him a message on the SoundCloud. His production was like the first attempts to produce a new disco genre, and now he is like a pop star. He had a million plays on SoundCloud, YouTube, whatever. After that, um I start to record mixes in this genre, and it goes more and more. I had more invitings for gigs from different. It was music. It was first genre that you could play in the restaurant, and also the situation in here. It was like the clubs goes down and the restaurants, terraces, bars going up. So they want some electronic music, but not tech house or techno, something they want something smoother. And then me, when with the new disco appears. But as we talked before, with the time, I start to hear the same chord progressions and the same tricks in the music. And also, what is the main reason for me to move from new disco to new project to new genre, it was the reason that new disco sound, pure new disco sound, is mostly about acoustic instruments. So to produce a real new disco, you should have Rhodes electric piano, you should have like Fender bass guitar, you should have pretty full collection of like disco band instruments. And in the 50%, and the other 50%, of course, it's electronic beats also, but you could have a real drum kit as well. It's not only about electronic beats, but kind of percent of synthesizers and the modern production, modern mixing and modern mastering. So I learned the piano a lot, and I realized that my skills is not enough to produce proper new disco sound. And meanwhile, the guys who was leading in the genre was the bands from three people that was into music much more time than me. So if I start in 28, they were stars in 14, 15. They had the musical professional
training.
Yeah, exactly. Training by years. So, and this reason is also push me to re-sing and review on me from the side to understand that if I want to produce and be honest in the new disco genre, I should play a lot of instruments by live and record it and then show it to the people. But obviously, I didn't a multi-instrumentalist and I didn't have the time to get all those skills. And in production, I start from new disco, and I pass the house production. So it was really hard for me to produce proper new disco tracks. So to produce one track, it could takes for me half a year. So I realized that if I want to be deep into the music production, into the genre, I should produce more, but I couldn't. So, and in the when I moved to the side project to Turu Anasi music, I realized that I could produce the house loop, but much more slower. So if the new disco music is all about the richness and the beauty of acoustic and electronic instruments, then the ethnic music, uh, like Turu Anasi creates, is the music with the magic of the loop, house loop. So mostly it's about to create a groove, create the loop that can pump you, push you, like to move, and with the melodies from multicultural instruments and everything. So the reasons was the skills and the beauty and the size of the ethnic music. So if we are taking new disco in overall, you can count the instruments that you can hear in mostly every track by your two hands. So obviously it would be two guitars, bass and acoustic, and okay, electric guitar, three, electric piano, drum kits, or and a couple iconic synthesizers like Juno 60, like Juno 106, like Jupiter 8, like Moog or something like this. And in ethnic music, I discover every time some new instruments, some instruments that are was created ages ago, so like several centuries
Yeah.
old. Yeah, and different, and you start uh, to categorize music by the countries and by the ages. And in every country and in every age, you found something new, some new instrument, some new scale, some new sound, some new tone, some new uh, vocal and everything like this. So I could hear mostly now we in the time, not now or even 2 or 3 years ago, we were even 5 years ago, let's be honest. We was in the time uh, for Middle East melodies, Middle East vocalists, Middle East scales, instruments like oud, saz, clarinets, and duduk, and everything like this. Then was Latin America music, like Peru, Chile, Mexico, and it goes, it moves, it flows. So if you now it, I start to hear more Africa, different countries and instruments like Lebanon, like Syria, like Egypt. So, and I realized that also Balkans, like Bulgaria, Romania, start to produce a lot, and I can hear different scales, different instruments. So this genre for me is now it's the most colorful genre in the electronic music, like for example jazz in acoustic music.
Yeah.
So in the jazz stage, it's the similar. So when if we are talking about the fusion, for example, you could met when some Arabic musicians moved into Chicago and start to play with American guys jazz as they bring their scales, their instruments like darbuka, like djembe, and everything, and the fusion was created. And the same is going with the ethnic organic house, so like Bitport call it.
Yeah.
So it's very colorful, it's very rich, so that's why it's so interesting.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear it when I listen to your music. So I want to kind of dive in how you are able, or how you're able to pull all these ideas from all over the world and instruments from the centuries. Um, what makes something stand out, or how do you know that this is going to go with that? Sometimes, when I'm listening to some of your tracks, I didn't expect that type of instrument to come in. And but yet it blends nicely. So, is what kind of filter do you put on your mind to like gain traction on finding a sound for a track that you're working on?
One of the magic in this genre is that you can hear un, un not unwanted, unexpected instruments in the music like this. Yeah, there's a reason why this music is good for me. Well, obviously, I found the instrument and the story of the instrument first. And then I try to fill it with the electronic uh, context.
Yeah. So let
So
me just push pause there for a second. So you said you find
yeah,
the instrument and the story. Tell me about that a little bit. Like, what's the story? How do you know what an instrument story is?
I started to discover the folk instruments. So I start to conversate with different people or with different countries, from different countries, in a traveling or just with the musician or just with my friends who has friends or relationship in other countries. And if I understand that I could learn from this person something about instrument or culture that was back in the days, I start to discover, to conversate. Uh, One way. The second way, YouTube and Wikipedia. So you playing different bands from different countries, from Africa or whatever, Turkey. YouTube algorithms start to push you different songs, and now it's possible to find the tracks from 50s, 60s, for example, from Turkey, like Turkish pop rock or Turkish folk artists, and you start to hear some instruments that you never heard before. And you start to discover, start to Google, and you found the story. So the instrument was made years ago. It's made from this kind of wood. It's made from this kind of leather. It's made like this, and you start to explore what the scale of this instrument, and then you uh, fit the scale of not fit the scale. Then you start to learn the scale, and all tracks start to be in the scale. So the story goes like this.
So, is it fair to say that understanding the story helps you mentally get into the instrument and understand how to play it and adapt yourself to it?
If the story is so interesting, so interesting, yeah, it does. So I try to found not only instruments but also the musicians that played virtuously on these instruments. So if I found the person that played in this instrument, so I could feel a goosebumps. Yes, yes. It goes like this. The story moved me to create something with it. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
Or the story, yeah, all the story from the instrument by itself. So if it has like interesting story from the from our roots somewhere different in the deep of the country, yeah, it does. It could be a story. It could be a story. It could be a visual aspect of the instruments. For example, in Ukraine, we have instruments that created with the horse tail. The instrument by itself is like a drum with one side empty, and with the other side you have the hole, and in this hole you have a horse tail that's going through the hole, and when you move the horse tail from one side to another through this hole in this drum, it creates like a low bassoon sound. So the instrument is very interesting. So yeah,
What's that
yeah.
instrument
But
called?
in Ukrainian you have a word buhai. Buhai, it's in Ukrainian it's like a big young man who can kick you. So that's why
Okay.
I was thinking the instrument was like translatable to English. But as Wikipedia told me, no. In the English, it would be Buhai. But if you want, I'll show the link. The link. I'll share the link with you.
Yeah, that'd be great. So we'll put it in the show notes for anybody listening who's curious. But that's a great example of an instrument that, well, first of all, I don't know, which that doesn't mean anything, but it's just a unique instrument and you get to learn about it. And so once you find these unique acoustic instruments, do you have to track down somebody who plays it and try and sample them and put it in a song? Or do you find a plug-in, like a digital instrument that mimics the sound?
Everything. If I was quite successful, I found a sample somewhere in the sample library. But obviously, and unfortunately, the sample libraries are not so connectable with something you create. So you could connect them, but the sound will be
I know what you mean. It,
not.
it doesn't mix well.
It's not only about mixing. It's of the articulation, how you play it, how it's recorded. So I think sample libraries now these days with the folk instruments was mostly created for films. So it's like cinematic music.
I see.
And yeah, and the BPM of these samples and the articulation of its playing, it's more like for not electronic music, for cinematic music. But sometimes sample libraries that creates now by the producers from this genre, yeah, it obviously it happens a lot. So you could be successful and you will find the sample that you need. Uh, Other way, you looking for session musician who is playing on this instrument. and sometimes it's a folk, also other plus of the ethnic music. So if you found a musician that played on some rare nat- folk instrument, and the 70 years passed from 70 years from he passed away.
Yeah, I see.
So yeah, obviously it starts to be like the um, like
Well, time changes sound, right? There's different microphones, there's different recording equipment. So if it's a 70-year-old sample, it's going to sound from that time.
yeah. It would pops, it would have cracks.
Yeah,
So your job is to make it, or you just need to clear everything to make it sound good, or you just need to make the track that this part and these cracks would fit,
yeah,
and the overall feeling would be good.
yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
and what I wanted to say, if the 70 years passed since uh, the musician passed away, so you can use it like a sample and it would be like a loyalty free.
Yep.
It's become like a distance of the nation,
Yeah,
if you know
yeah.
what
So
I mean.
in America, I think it's 1973 is the cutoff time for copyrighted music, which is strange. So some artists made an album before then, and then they made an album after, and they're still alive. And one of the albums is, in a different law. So
Wow.
the law is confusing. And then also, you're right about like after death, it's I think it's 100 years in America, but every country is different. I can't keep track of it, so it's certainly a challenge.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't know about that, but yeah, in Ukraine, it's 70 years from, I don't know, maybe there should be like overall world law
No
about
kidding,
this.
no kidding.
But
Uh,
yeah, but
Music
I'm
crosses
using,
borders, right? Like we
yeah,
gotta.
yeah,
It's kind of absurd for a musician to be on top of every law in every country, and these laws are changing. So there's a big company called Sirius XM, and they got sued for not paying artists before 1973, and so the law might change. So, anyways, it is a headache. So I can sympathize and understand, how difficult it is to work with the right samples and try and attribute proper credit to the right person, but at the same time be able to make music and sell it. I feel like your music is just blending so many cultures and times. Um, do you see it that way, or do you see yourself representing where you're from?
in the beginning, my first track was about the Ukraine. It was like Ukrainian electronic folk, and in the beginning, I was thinking that I should try to hold by the Ukrainian side, because we have a rich and full Ukrainian culture. You have a lot of Ukrainian unique instruments that you wouldn't find in any other country or nation. But quite a long time ago, uh, it becomes like a pop culture also. So we have a beautiful artist Onuka that creates electronic music with the folk instruments and the folk scales and the folk sounds. So I will always think that now these days this genre is not belongs to her, but she was a frontman. So I don't want to sound the same, you know. And her production is so beautiful and so rich with the Ukrainian instruments. So I start to discover different nations, and then I realized that I will try to be a multicultural artist, and it's very interesting for me also not belong only to Ukrainian culture, but to discover culture of other nations and other people.
So I would love to dive into a couple of your songs briefly. I want to start out with Mama Berjuda. Am I saying that all right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. First of all, it's what I notice is that like you're not afraid to loop, but there's subtleties in it that makes it not seem repetitive. Like the listener, at least myself, I get into it, and it's like I'm getting absorbed into the the bass rhythm, and then there's other flavors that you add on top. And there's a few breakdowns in the song, and I think it's the third, well, I don't know, you might have a different word for it, but I'll call it the third breakdown. And there's some sort of stringed instrument that comes in. And I wonder, first of all, what is that instrument?
Let me open the project because it was produced quite a long time ago. I had a long period from demo to release
I see.
on Pipe and Pochette. Yeah, so as I try to produce more and every day, and there are so many instruments, I start to forget the names,
Yeah, that's understandable.
yeah, and
So
everything.
at least on Spotify, it was released 2020. So I guess we could talk about as you pull it up, how you found Pipe and Pocket and how you decided to release it through them.
Uh, my friends in here in hometown, they are into music and into this genre. Their artist name is are Vagashi Brothers. Those two guys that showed me and who are split the love for ethnic and folk music in here in my hometown. So they showed me Pipe and Pochette, and it was, by the way, it was the leading genre, and meantime it's one of the leading genres obviously in the scene.
And
So
what genre is that? Just to clarify for anybody listening.
well, in 2019 there was not obvious name for this genre. Somebody called it sound tempo, somebody called it world music, somebody calls it electronica, somebody calls it slow house or something like this. That's why Bitport just not so long time ago created organic house slash down tempo genre in his store, and because of uh, this mess in this kind of music. So now I think it's called organic house because I think it's a logic because you use organic instruments with like organic sound by itself, but obviously it's not down tempo. But I don't know. I can judge like this.
Yeah,
So
it's hard for me. I try not to fully understand where all the genre boxes and borders are and which one fits into what bucket.
yeah. So I just opened the project of Mama Birjudan.
If you're
Yeah.
comfortable sharing behind the
It's
scenes
okay.
of your project. That's awesome.
So we have a red line because my audio interface is off.
Yep.
I'm using Universal Audio, so the plugins from Universal Audio are uh,
Active.
not are not active because I'm using the AirPods and built-in output of the Mac. So the the sample of the woman singing, it was African tribe singing. I don't remember where I found it, but now it's called like audio because I'm working a lot and
Yep.
I consolidate it, freeze it, re-record it, so the names could be lost. So electric piano with the VST for the keys. One once again electric piano. I think it's a layer. It's a gamelan. We have gamelan baliset.
Yep.
It was taken from this library contact instrument. By the way, it's very interesting set of Indonesian drums. So they have like this set of instruments, and they play their folk songs only by these instruments.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it is quite fascinating. I actually studied some gamelan in college, and what I found interesting
yeah,
is some of that horizontal instrument there
yeah,
with the drums. They're actually only a few wavelengths off, so they create this like beat frequency. You hear the whoa 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 whoa,
yeah, exactly.
and so I found that always very fascinating.
Yeah. And by the way, this is like culture, like native Balians instrument sets. So they sing in this way, they play songs in this way. So it's like overall genre
Yeah.
with this set of instruments. And the strings that you are talking about in the third break, it's a violin. And yeah, this is a loop. In this situation, I was lucky enough to found the sample that
Fit.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a harm.
Harm.
This
Okay.
sound, yeah, it's
See, this
harm.
is a new one to me as well. So this is it's always exciting to hear
Yeah,
new
harm
sounds.
and oud. Yeah, so
Oud.
I'm cutting, editing it, and create the melodies that it played.
Yeah. So for people who are just listening and can't see this, it's spelled HARM, and then the other instrument is OUD.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean it's a fascinating breakdown. We'll put it into the mix in the end, so everybody will be able to hear what we're talking about. So there is the violin part, and then the harm comes in, and then the oud.
To be honest, well, everybody can found the oud. It's quite a popular string instrument from the Middle East and Asia. It's something like a guitar, so everybody can found it.
Yep.
And about the strings, I think harm is not the right word. Let's say it's a string. It's a strings ensemble that played staccato.
Yeah.
I think it's let's just say it's a string ensemble. It's a string ensemble that's playing long, sustainable notes, and then the short notes. It's an oud. Yeah.
Yeah. So on your screen on beat like 144, that oud, that da-da-dun, right before everything else drops back in. I felt like that was
Yeah,
just so well placed. It's the first introduction of that sound there,
yeah,
and then it is comes in. I think what is that every four bars, um, and it's just I felt like it was so surprising and like delightful when I first heard it, and I still love it. But it's one of those
thank you.
elements that just added a lot of surprise and joy when I was listening.
Yeah, yeah. That's why. Thanks a lot, Michael. That's why I'm still into production because yeah, the feedbacks like this, it's always pleased to your soul. So yeah, you try to share this un, unexpected moments with the people in the music. You try to bring something new because you try, as we said before, I'm not trying to be like everybody in the genre. So I always trying to find my own style, my own tricks. So yeah, yeah,
Well, thank you for
that's
showing
how it
us.
works.
Yeah, you're like kind of peeling back the curtain. We get to look a little bit into it and understand visually how things are laid out. Everybody can listen to it, but sometimes it's really helpful to see. Oh, those two sounds were layered, and this happened at the same time as that, and this is So it's always interesting insights when looking at the MIDI or the audio in a file.
Yeah, well, mostly it's the combination, as I said, is my music is about the magic of the loop. So I try to create the loop that is repetitive and like in the house, you start to it's something like a meditation. You start to dive in it, and if you are free and if you are into music, you start to feel like this loop is working. It's working with your with your body and with your soul like a meditation. And from the one side, and from the other side, it's like some interesting instruments that share the uh, cultural difference between the people, but the meantime it's saying that the music is the only language that everybody understands. So it's the beauty of this genre as well. Yeah, it's all
Definitely.
about it.
Yeah, well, I am really grateful that you showed us a little bit kind of happening under the hood in that part of the song. Um, it's quite interesting to me.
Welcome, welcome, be my guest.
All right. So you also chose, I'm not exactly sure what to call it. I probably should know this, but it's a percussion instrument. It sounds like wood to me, and I think it has notches in the wood. And um, I don't know if that makes any sense to you. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's like a rim that is playing 16s, like
yep,
like this. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I don't know exactly what is it. It's loop that I think in some way
And I see, is it Foley?
uh,
Which is Foley's like the sound effects for movies.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So as I can see, it's played by its own, but
Hmm.
I love this loop. I use it a lot in my different tracks. So I always try to edit and to make it unique. But I think in this situation, it was the first time I heard this loop for me. And by the way, as I remembering right now, this was one of the tracks that pushed the track further. So the drum section was like built around it, and it created this feeling that is shaking.
the next song I want to talk about is titled Meditation. Track meditation itself is it almost is trance, like it puts me in a trance when I listen to it. So I'm curious, just personally, do you meditate?
Well, it's an actual question for me right now, because now I'm conversating and spend a lot time with the men who are into meditation a lot. He's a master, like yoga master, if I could say like this. I'm
Yeah.
not really into deep in this culture, but now it's going with me. So I think I'm on my way to meditation. I think I could say like this. I'm trying to realize what it's all yoga about.
Yeah.
So yeah, uh, and this track, by the way, was about it. Was about it. The meditation start to appears in my life. I start to meet people who are meditate. I start to meet people who are living by the yoga like
Practice.
laws.
Yeah.
Yeah, practice, if I could say like this. Once again, sorry for my English. So yeah, I think I'm on my way to it.
Yeah. Well, I personally, I think that meditation, I value it. And I think that there's actually many forms of it. There's not like a one way to meditate. I feel like, when I'm working with a loop or something, it gets me into a meditative state. It's like, it's my mantra, but it's just coming from the computer, but I'm creating it. So I feel like your track meditation is it's a unique track. So I want to kind of break down a few elements of it. Who is the vocal sample? There's towards the beginning.
The vocal, it's was founded by the sample library, but this sample library was, I don't remember for sure. It was not obvious like ethnic sample library or something. It was sample library with jazz or something like this. And I heard these samples. I heard this vocal, and I understand that. Yeah, I should use this.
So I wonder, did you come up with the song first? Was it titled Meditation and then you found the sample, or did you build it around the sample? How did you approach it?
To be honest, I don't remember for sure, but I think it starts from the loop. It starts from the loop. I made a loop that works. And as you said, I feeling the same. So this loop was like a meditative loop for me. It's not happens often that I create the loop that I could listen for an hours.
Yes.
And I realized that this loop will works. So I started from the loop and I tried different vocals on it.
Yeah. So Sasha, when you said you started with the loop, you're talking about the rhythm. Is that accurate?
It's not only the rhythm. It's of course the drum kit. You're starting with the kit, with the kick, and you add something that creates overall feeling. In those way, it was Indian instrument sitar.
Yep.
So I heard. By the way, the sitar instrument mixed a bit. It's pushed a bit far away from the listener, so it's not so obvious. But the sitar, kick and sitar, was the main instrument to understand me the way I should move further. So with the sitar, with this loop string, with this string looped, I start to realize where I should go, and then all other sounds just like um, trying to repeat the groove and the feel of this loop.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then instruments, drums, shakers, percussion, heads, and then bass line. The bass line, I always playing the bass line,
I was
so
going to ask
I
about
could.
the bass. So you play that on a guitar or bass guitar
No, no, no. I played
on
on
the
the
keyboard?
synthesizer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember which. It was some virtual synthesizer.
Well,
Uh,
it really makes the song, the bass. So I feel like it's a critical layer, and it's nice that you feel that, and you know it comes through your fingers and then it into your ears. So it really does add a whole lot to it. And
Yeah, yeah. The bass lines, it's always something I create by my own. So I can use samples of everything, but only one instrument I can't use a sample because it's add a lot to the track, and the bass line is like the biggest instrument in the track, so I'm always playing by my own the bass line.
and then there's
I
I think it's a guitar, and it's like every four bars, and it's a subtle, and it's panned to the ear, and then there's kind of a counter note that's panned to the right ear, and I found that to be very interesting. That it was just it's such a simple loop, but
Yeah,
it's able to add some movement and change throughout the track, even though it is not really changing that much. But there is differences that come up over time.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
really
yeah,
cool track that I again, like you said, you know, you could listen to it for like an hour straight, you know, or the loop, and I feel like those are the tracks that I love to have on in the background or in my headphones when I'm working or something like that, because it's not. I feel like I just get into the flow when I'm absorbing that music. So
you're right, but it was a sitar, not a
sitar.
guitar. It was a
Okay.
sitar.
All right. I want to kind of shift gears a little bit. What's the best investment of time or money that you've ever made in your life?
Well, I should say thanks to my parents. I think that the best investment they did. They get me the private English teacher, and that's why I can conversate with you, and that's helped me a lot in my life. I start to study English a lot in 6 years, and all knowledge of the language, of my knowledge of the language, comes from 6 years old. So the
Wow.
teacher was so good, yeah, and I spent like 3 years of or 2 years of teaching English every day, or not every day, sorry, once a week. So it helped me a lot. So I would like to say thanks to my parents that they did this investment in me.
Yeah, well, that's great. I think being able to communicate is so important, and I'm jealous at your ability to communicate in so many different languages. So that's That's amazing. So that's a great use of time and money on your parents' part. They bought it, but you put in the time and effort. So, what advice would you give to a young musician starting out today?
It's a hard question. I'm I'm thinking that I'm not a professional musician. Also, I'm thinking that I'm newcomer still, and I don't know. I think the practice. I think the. For, I could say about me. For me, I spent a lot of time on YouTube videos. It was a mistake. So with the knowledge I get, I understand from different people, from people that I know, from that I can see, I can talk to them, I can see how they work. So I understand that unfortunately in the music production, YouTube has a lot of disinformation, unfortunately. So my day was like 4 5 hours of work and 4 5 hours of studying, but studying on YouTube. So mm, it was a lot time spent to knowledge that would not work for me. And also I spent a bit more money than I should for different gear. So I was thinking like I don't know, everybody thinks that I would buy new monitors, I would buy a new interface, I would buy a new synthesizer, and my music will sound good. If you are on the beginning on the way, you should learn music theory, you should learn your instrument, but you should learn, I don't know, mixing, something that you are really into. But um, not the gear will make your music good. Of course, within some persons, it will improve your music, but in the 90%, your knowledge, your feel, your skill of playing will make more. It works for me.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that's great advice, and I completely agree. I think it's important to work with what you have. You don't need more stuff if you're just starting out. You just need to work with what you already have. Obviously, you need that first piece of gear to get started, right? Like if you can't listen to the digital music, that's not going to be helpful. So you got to be able to hear it and play it. But you just, I think putting time into the instrument is so important. So I think that's great advice. What were some of the biggest insights or breakthroughs that you had in your career? Like maybe a turning point, or I know you mentioned before that you reached out to some artists on YouTube. I mean, sorry, on SoundCloud, and that was kind of a game changer for you. But I'm wondering, is there anything else that you feel was important in your career?
I'm thinking that it will be in the future.
Nice.
If I could answer like this, yeah, I stepped by the small steps. It goes like this with me. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit lazy. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. So I step a bit, steps, step by step, step by step. So I hope that someday something will change a lot. But now I just make targets. I'm getting it, and small target after small target. And if you're moving like this, I can say that something like a finger snapped. I woke
Yeah.
up and realized that, oh, something helped me. Unfortunately, or for the luck, I don't know, but I
No.
think it will be in the future.
Yeah. And no, I think that's a good answer. Maybe it's a flawed question because nobody climbs a mountain in one step. You gotta take all those little steps day after day. This one is kind of like a mental question for you. So when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, or you're trying to create a new song and something's just not working, what do you do?
This is, I think this is a bit of a problem for me, because when I feel like this, I'm leaving everything and move away from the studio, from the home. I go meet my friends. I go to the parties. I go somewhere else. But I'm leaving everything, and it could takes for 3 days, 4 days. Once it takes a month. It took a month or even a bit more. So I'm trying to shorter these periods, because but yeah, it happens sometimes. I just sometimes I just don't feel the music. So I'm I'm even can't listen to new music. It happens. So I turn off the all speakers, car audio, and everything. I like to be in quiet. I'm trying to be in silence a lot. I read books. I I'm walking, and I spend a lot of time with my friends. And it so my mood disappears. It happens. So
Yeah.
my musical mood, my musical taste like disappears, and it could be for day, for two, for three, for four, and then something happens, and oops, I want to hear new music. So yeah, it happens like this. I just leave everything. I just leave music. Like music is not my passion, not my desire. I just leave it in overall. So
Yeah. You change your
like
environment
this.
and kind of clear your mind.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And if I said about parties, it the parties means not like club parties or music parties. It's like, I don't know, paintball,
Oh,
if you know
okay.
what is
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I know what paintball is.
Yeah, yeah, some
Just
games, some
something
parties, like,
activity. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
something. It's not about music.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate that you clarified that because I wouldn't have imagined paintball. But just
Yeah,
getting
sorry for.
outside, getting moving, being active, doing something different, and not staring at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
screen and forcing something. For those people listening that don't already know your music, where's the best place that they could find you, and where, if somebody wants to connect with you, should they reach out?
SoundCloud and Facebook. Spotify, unfortunately, just appeared in my country about 3 months ago, so I'm not really into deep into Spotify. I heard a lot about it. I can see that everybody in the genre are really deep into Spotify. Maybe I will discover more about it, but now I try to uh, answer to every message that I have on SoundCloud or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So yeah, I
Great.
think SoundCloud and Facebook, the main links for me.
Excellent. And are you working on any new albums that listeners should keep an ear out for, or do you have any new projects that you'd like to share?
Okay, uh, a lot of work right now. I had a lot of requests for remixes and for albums and for EP. Uh, Unfortunately, it's not a lot time to mm, create and to reply to every request, but I'm trying. It would soon. It would be releases on my. It's something like a home label now, Cosmic Awakenings. A couple of remixes will be released on Cosmic Awakenings. It will be EP on EP edit and the remix on TRNDSMAK. If you heard about these guys,
No.
they're quite popular. Yeah, they are quite popular. I think they're from Austria or Switzerland. No, I think Austria. But I heard a lot about them, and now I start to cooperate with them, and I really glad. So
Cool.
I think it would be my next big cooperation with this label. They released a lot of great music and a lot of artists that I'm listening right now.
Final question is for you. It's open ended. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
I'd like to share positive in my music, taboo on negative and only positive. So I hope that some people will find my music good for like soul healing, body healing, and just for a good mood. That is my mission to share the good music as a DJ or as a producer. So
That's great.
that's my my main like life mission.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Well, we're definitely going to link to your music, and the listeners, hopefully, if they don't already know you, now they understand the person behind the music, and they can reach out to you on all your social networks. So, Sasha, thank you so much for your time and sharing your energy, your art, and creativity, and showing us some of the nuances in the projects that you create. So, appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Freio Music Podcast with Michael Morahan. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. And don't forget to share this podcast everywhere. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay tuned.
Freio Music, Freio Music, Freio Music, Freio Music. You are listening to Freio Music.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.